I mean, the why of Babbage, right? What is the why of Babbage? Here's an interesting experiment. Sam, what is the why of Babbage? Why are we doing these things? No pressure. I'm curious what each person thinks. Sam, are you here?
I think, well, just on my side of it, I tend to think of it more as public storage, private access. It, that might be a bit confusing to think about.
Public storage, private access. That's so like things can be publicly stored, but then they're encrypted, so only the people can access them when they have the keys or something like that.
Essentially, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems right.
Because everybody can like access the encrypted stuff, but in order to actually like see what's the contents of it is, then you have like the permissions request stuff of the owner of that data. So,
and just like Bitcoin more generally, the output scripts, right? You can see the puzzle, even if you can't solve the puzzle.
yeah.
Right? It's like maybe you don't have the key, but you can see the lock. So that's a good analogy. I like that. Mike, what do you think the why of Babbage is?
There's a lot of whys, but I don't know. I think, let's see, one of the bigger ones is micropayments. Like, in order to facilitate a more efficient, and efficient enough, I think, work economy, like without, well, we're not going to be able to, like, we as a collective species aren't going to be able to do it without micropayments. I think we're not going to be able to stay efficient, and a system like this facilitates that.
So you mean like when people work and they like create value or something?
Yeah, like we have to be able to actually accurately see the value they create. We can't do that with the current system. So like with this, we could see that data and we could act on it. We could help, make sure it happens more. So we can create a more efficient work economy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bob, what do you think?
Yeah, I want users to own their own data. I think that's very important. And I think that we can actually help do that. And I think that we want to have app developers be able to build apps so that you've got competition between app developers. And we're offering the infrastructure to actually complete that. That's what I see as our main goal.
All right. Braden, I'm going to make you go last because then it's going to be. I'm just joking. Tone, what do you think the why of Babbage is?
So, I'm newer than many of you, but for me, a lot of times I come back to the CWI, computing with integrity. And what is that, how does that get interpreted by each of you? How did it get interpreted by Ty? What's the heart of it? Why does it matter? And I merged that with why I'm here myself. And so this is kind of a hybrid of the two of them, but we want to do micropayments, and doing micropayments, part of that is that you can't pay for everything that you want to do. You have to be willing to do some operations for free, and then charge when it makes sense to charge when enough work's been done. And that immediately becomes challenging unless you've got some kind of a central database of accounts. And so you step back and you say, okay, we can't have the central database of accounts. Then how do we make sure we can charge when it's appropriate to charge and make the payments work? And the cool thing about Babbage to me is things like Authorite let agents in the system identify themselves securely with no central database. So if I go to anybody else who plays ball, who knows how to play ball, they don't need to connect to some shared database. They just need to play Authorite. And then I can be sure that I'm talking to someone who, you know, is identifying themselves adequately. And that puts me in a position where I can do stuff for them, you know, tiny stuff maybe. And then at some point when I've done enough tiny stuff, I can charge them for it, or I can negotiate with them for payment. And that, to me, has the potential to turn it all on its head, put us in position to build applications where we own our own data, you know. And easy to say, there's just a ton of work to do between classic application building and that. But, you know, what's different between us and Handcash and Moneybutton and all these other things is we're really driven by that. I'm speaking for, you know, how I see things, which could be wrong. We're driven by that mission statement of making that possible. So we put the pieces together and we keep building them and improving them. And eventually, I think we'll end up with some synergy, which will be amazing when usable, valuable services start just interacting at microtransaction levels and almost micro identity levels. And we find that people are in charge of their own data, and they are in charge of their own money, and they can transact or communicate or exchange in new ways, you know, that create a whole new economy. So that's why I'm kind of pumped to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the micro identity thing is interesting too with the certificate fields, right? Because selective revelation, I think, is a big part of, right? Like the white paper says, hassling people for more information than they would otherwise need to prevent fraud or whatever. So yeah, I think that's all valid. Braden, what do you think the why of Babbage is?
I agree with all the answers everyone said. Micropayments on your own identity are very important. I think the internet as it is today is not the best it could be. There's a lot of perverse incentives, as we have in our statement on the main page of the website, with ads, with you know, using people's data where when products are free, we're the product, right? So I think what we're doing is creating a new way to do things with new economic incentives. I think there's a lot of power with peer-to-peer systems, whether that be through payments, exchanging value, information. The future, I think there could be cool stuff we could do with peer-to-peer, you know, cellular communications with Project Sigma related things. So I think the future is bright, and we are on the right path.
Yeah, yeah, Sigma is going to be there's going to be a lot that can be done. I mean, all the stuff that people talk about with routing, you know, we've talked about, I mean, you and I talked for a little bit about like peer-to-peer routing and how this can be done and some of the technical aspects of it. And like, that's going to make it so much more efficient across all the different mediums that we have for routing things and getting the shortest path and lowest latency and all this stuff. So that's one of the things I'm really, I mean, I'll try to address my own question.
What do you think, Ty?
Now I'm last.
It's got time.
The correct answer is
all of those things, I will say that. And one of the things I'm really excited about is relating to the emergence of standard protocols across different applications that are, so like, for example, Skype and Zoom would have an incentive to hash out their differences and create a standard protocol that everybody could plug into for video calling. And then anybody that wants to, you know, go create a video calling application, there's like this protocol that they can use, and they can like extend it. And if they do something like good to make it better, then all the other implementers of that same protocol would have an incentive to support their protocol extensions. And that way you have more features across more applications. But then you don't get a bunch of cluttered UIs either, because all these UIs have an incentive to be the best conveyor of user intent, in the sense of, well, So there's this really complicated protocol. How do we fit all this stuff into a great UX? And if we do it wrongly, then people are going to leave and go to use some other UI which does the same protocol better. So that Zoom doesn't make me enable multiple participant screen sharing in all of these meetings anymore.
Every time.
So if we are successful, then I want to use a version of Zoom in 10 years that makes me not use the button that says enable multiple participant screen sharing in the Zoom meeting. So one of the things for me, and I will give an anecdote. My grandma in 2020 there was some fires that destroyed my grandma's house in September of 2020, and then in October she had a couple of strokes, and after her strokes she was not as able to move physically. She didn't have very good hand-eye coordination, things of this nature. And so she tried to use her phone, and before her strokes, she would be on her phone like more than I was on my phone. I don't know. She would go on the internet and read about these random articles about random things. And she would, I remember one time I was in my bathroom shaving my face, which is difficult when you have low vision. And she was watching this video about some gut connect, weight loss, whatever. And she was going to enter her credit card. So I come running out of the bathroom with shaving cream on my face. And I'm, Grandma, don't enter your credit card. This is a scam. And so I convinced her not to fall for the scam. But a couple of things play in there. Firstly, when UIs are able to be created for specific people who are in specific situations, maybe they're elderly, and they can plug into the same protocols, interact with the same systems as everybody else, but they're designed in such a way that they prevent people from getting scammed. That's a powerful thing. And when people have suffered from strokes, there can be specialized UIs that have been created that allow these people to do things and interact with the same systems as everybody else can interact and participate in the digital world, even though they can't use the same UIs and interfaces as everybody else has to use. So that ties in with me, with my vision as well. There's a lot of UIs that I struggle with learning, and I would much rather interact almost low-level ways with the protocols themselves and have like a CLI or something like that for some things. And that way it would be easier. But I think that creating protocols and having those emerge for the things that people do and having those be open and interoperable is necessary. And so that's why I built this stuff on a personal note. So that's my answer to it. But I think we all have something unique we've brought to this discussion, and I think there's great power in having things be public, but also private in ways, because then it doesn't change and it's transparent. I mean, there's great power in having the privacy aspects and data ownership. There's great power in being able to pay for a lot of the things that you do and actually, get rid of the externalities that are created when things are done in the wrong way, because you have to have an external system such as advertising to monetize everything. When you can do it directly, you get rid of the externalities and you pay for the value that you actually create. These are things that are important to me and to, I think, a lot of the people here, and to everybody, in different contexts. Digital privacy is huge. People don't like privacy because they fear the things that people will do when they are private. But if you fear the people, then you don't trust them. And if you distrust the people, then the people will distrust you. And then you have a distrustful relationship between the people who get to decide, which is basically, government, and the societies that they serve or that they're supposed to serve. And when you have distrust in that relationship, then that's not a good place to start, is it? So educating people is the way to try to prevent that type of distrust from emerging. And that means, a lot, but privacy is a long-term goal, and it is something that I think would create a better society long-term if people were well educated. So a little bit of everything there, but there's a lot, but I think there's some compelling value propositions that we've gone through, and I think that we can definitely share that with some people.